Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Why is it so hard to obey the second commandment? Perhaps it's because our natural tendency is to do the exact opposite of what the commandment requires. If you'd like to know how to turn your natural tendency around so that you can partner with God for success in your business and relationships, then this video is for you. Transforming your business from struggling to success and from success to significance. I love to study the biographies of successful men and women. This includes business people and people who walk closely with God, some of whom who walked in what we call the miraculous, with signs and wonders following them. Perhaps it's my engineering background, but I love to study the commonalities between successful people because once you find the characteristics that these people share, it's pretty safe to conclude that you have found a principle of success. One of these commonalities or principles for success that I want to show you is what we refer to as the second commandment, to do unto others as we would have others do unto us. I know that I did another video on this subject entitled The Number One Mistake Christian Business People Make. In that video, I gave the supporting scriptures, explained why this was the number one mistake that Christian business people make, and gave some examples of how business people violate this principle every day. But today, I would like to look closely at some examples of the right and wrong way of treating people with the goal of understanding why this commandment is often violated and difficult to adhere to. What you will see is that the reason it is so difficult to comply with is that our natural tendency is to do the exact opposite of what the Bible is telling us to do. Perhaps this is why Jesus gave us the second commandment, because he knew that our natural tendency would be to do the exact opposite. What is the opposite? The opposite is to do unto others as they have done unto you. Let's look at some good examples of where people obeyed the second commandment and treated people the way that they wanted to be treated. For the first example, in my Kingdom Business Success book, I talked about the business owner who was going to be late with payroll. He sent an email to every employee explaining the situation. He told them that he was taking steps with the bank to ensure this would never happen again. He also offered to help out anyone who would be financially impacted by the late paycheck. This is one of my favorite stories because he treated his employees the way he would want to be treated himself. No one complained. There were no snide remarks about him or the company. In fact, he probably ended up having greater respect from his employees because of it. For the second example, we have a couple of clients that are active in recruiting former prisoners to work for them. One of them even offers technical training courses in the prison. Why is this so important? In Matthew 25, verses 34 to 40, Jesus describes his future judgment seat where he separates the sheep from the goats. The sheep will inherit the kingdom, the goats go on to hell. One of the characteristics of the sheep is that they gave Jesus water, food, clothing, and visited him when he was in prison. The goats did not. Jesus goes on to say that whatever we do for the least of his children, we are doing to him, whether it be good or bad. Every single person we deal with, whether they're employees or their clients, doesn't matter. Jesus sees each and every one of them as being their children. The way we treat them is how God views us or God evaluates us. Yes, I know that many of these ex-felons will eventually return to prison, but imagine how faithful and loyal an employee you can find when you offer someone an opportunity that others would not provide. You would certainly want to pray over and hear from God on who to hire, but by ministering to prisoners or ex-prisoners, we get a chance to treat others the way we would want to be treated if we were in their situation. The third example is what I call you owe me. Every business person has had employees and contractors who work for them who made mistakes that cost them money. I am one of those people who have made mistakes as an employee that cost my employer money, and I'm a businessman who has lost money due to the mistakes of those that work for me. The mistakes I remember the most are the ones that cost the most money or cost others the most time to clean up my mistake. I'm very thankful that I didn't get fired because of it. By the same token, I remember the most costliest and hard to resolve and clean up mistakes of those that worked for me. As an employer, the way I like to handle this is to go to great depths, explaining the seriousness of the mistake and detail out how much time, money, and heartache this mistake they made cost me and others. I then conclude with, I will cover the cost of your mistake this time, but next time it will be yours to pay. The employees are always thankful and will remember the grace and mercy they received. Whether I will cover the cost of future mistakes or not, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The next example is what I call you promised. In the business world, we're forever signing contracts and agreements, including memorandums of understanding, non-disclosure agreements, letters of intent, and other documents where we promise to do something or promise that we will not do something. And we have all seen that almost all of those agreements are violated at some point, sometimes even by us. The natural tendency is to want to seek legal recourse. However, this is often ineffective, costly, and counterproductive. Counterproductive meaning that whatever you were trying to accomplish in the business deal through the signed agreement in the first place is almost guaranteed not to happen because of the legal action that's taking place. I believe the best way of handling these situations is often through warnings and admonitions. When you sit down with the person who violated the agreement, you will often find out that they don't feel that they did violate it or felt that they were in the right, even though they admit to violating it. Oftentimes, I believe the best way to handle this is to explain why you perceive this to be a violation of the agreement and how this adversely affects you, and ask them not to do it again. Any repeat violation will result in the termination of employment, business relationship, or other recourse. What I've learned is that even when they don't believe they are wrong, they will appreciate you giving them one more chance and are more likely to adhere to the agreement going forward than if you threaten legal action or simply end the business relationship there. People will often defend their bad behavior even when they know they were in the wrong. You're often wasting your time trying to get them to agree with you. It's often better to forgive them, but let them know that the next time there will be consequences. As an example, I had one employee where we had stopped work on a contract because the client was not currently in a position to pay us. The client and I had a conversation on the phone where we agreed to put a stop work order in, that basically we would stop working for that client and we would give that client time to pay us back the several months that she owed us. Unfortunately, what happened is the employee or the contractor that I had at the time who was working on this for me wanted to continue to help out the client. So he continued to provide services to this client, even though it was a stop work order. The client just assumed that my employee was doing this, pro bono, so to speak, for gratis, and was not charging for it. So a couple of months go by, and my employee figures that they should be paid for this work. And I try to explain that there's no work to be paid. There's a stop work order. But he had been working, and he felt that he should be paid for it. Well, I called the client just to confirm that we were both in the same agreement that there was a stop work order. She just assumed that she'd take the free work because this is what we wanted. I had to tell my employee that you made a mistake. You violated what I told you to do. I told you to stop work. You continue to do anyway. And I told him, I will cover your mistake this time, but next time you're going to pay the price. Another time, we had a 6-month non-compete to prevent clients from hiring away our intercessors and consultants. But then one of our intercessors left to work directly with one of our clients. Neither the client nor the intercessor could see how they had done anything wrong in this agreement. Rather than try to preach to them or show them that they had signed a contract with us saying that they would stay out for at least 6 months prior to becoming an employee of one of our clients, we decided to just forgive them and release them without blessings. Could we have tried threats, recourse, and told mutual business acquaintances how they had wronged us and done wrong and violated the agreement? Sure, but in the end, it would have been counterproductive. It would have been better to treat them the way we would want to be treated if we had broken the agreement. Forgive, bless, and move on. Now for some bad examples where things could have been done much better. In the first example, we had one client who fired one of their employees and withheld recommendation for unemployment to the unemployment office. Based upon my business experience, I tried to explain to the client that you never, ever, ever do that. I don't care if the employee burns your building down on their way out the door. Besides, you can only withhold the recommendation for a non-payment of unemployment for 6 weeks. After that, they're going to get unemployment anyway. Well, they didn't take my advice and they wanted to make this termination personal. Here's what happened. The former employee, who was an HR person and knew the rules of HR, brought an EEO lawsuit against her former employer. The client was covered by general liability insurance, which covered this issue, and the insurance company ended up settling this lawsuit after almost a year for $90,000. But the client ended up losing their insurance company over the lawsuit because the insurance company said, we're not going to cover you anymore if this is how much money we're paying out for your mistakes. We need to learn to forgive and release employees without blessings when we terminate them, not be vindictive. Treat them the way we want to be treated if we were going to be terminated. Disgruntled employees can ruin the reputation of a good company. And besides, someday you might want to hire that former employee back. But that's not going to happen if we deny them unemployment or say bad things about it when they leave. In the second example, one of our clients, we'll call him Bob, hired a salesperson, we'll call him Alan, and turned their existing customer, Tim, over to Alan to be an account manager. Alan, the salesperson, developed a strong relationship with Tim, the customer. Alan also had a side hustle with some other business people and eventually saw an opportunity to connect one of his personal clients, we'll call Carl, with Tim. Long story short, a business investment was made between Carl and Tim without asking permission from Bob, Alan's boss. Bob had no idea that Alan, his salesperson, was using his time that Bob was paying him to work a deal that had nothing to do with Bob's business. Not only was Alan stealing time from Bob, but Alan received a $50,000 finder's fee on the deal and never offered to cut Bob in the bonus. By the time Bob knew about the investment deal and the finder's fee, it was already completed. Even when Alan, who was a devout Christian, was confronted with the wrongs he had committed, he still couldn't understand how he had done wrong. Aren't we all brothers in the Lord, he would say? Wasn't he just helping one brother out? This is a perfect example where we are guaranteed that the people who wronged us, even when we confront them over their wrong, they still believe they haven't done anything wrong, even when you line up a whole bunch of other people that will agree with you that you were wronged. At some point, you have to let these type of employees go, but you still have to forgive them and release them with your blessings. We can't expect everyone to be as mature and knowledgeable as we are. I am confident in time that Alan will eventually see how he wronged Bob, his former employer. It will just take time for the Lord to bring that clarification and maturity to him. As an aside note, call it sowing and reaping or call it karma. But after Alan received his finder's fee, his family ended up having significant financial issues. Proverbs 10:2 says, "Treasures gained by wickedness do not profit." And Proverbs 15:27 says, "Whoever is greedy for unjust gain troubles his household." All Alan had to do was get permission from Bob to work the deal and ask if he wanted to share in any profit that may come from the deal. Bob's permission and blessing on this deal would make all the difference in the long-term results of the deal. One of the worst examples of doing unto others as you would want others doing to you occurred with renewal of a consulting agreement with one of our clients. This client had hired a CEO to run their company who really didn't want to be engaged with a kingdom business like us. He was definitely not a Christian and he didn't like us. When they sent the new service agreement to us for signature, it required some ridiculous things that would have been difficult and even impossible to comply with. For example, I would have had to have a ridiculous amount of multiple types of general liability insurance, including $1 million of auto insurance in order to drive my car on their property. In addition to that, I would have to have my insurance company prove to the client on a regular basis, I think it was quarterly, that the insurance was still intact. Something my insurance company would never do. Why would my insurance company talk to a third party about the insurance I have with them? So how do you construct a true win-win business deal? I think the best way to do it is the divide and choose method. This can be explained in a biblical way with Abraham and Lot separating. I like it better the way it is told with a mother, 2 sons, and 1 slice of cake. The wisdom of the mother was to tell the oldest son that he could cut the 1 slice of cake into 2 small pieces, but the youngest son would get to choose which one of those smaller slices he wanted. Not knowing which slice he would end up with, the older son made sure that both slices were as equal in size as he could make them. Imagine if we created every business deal the same way. We make each side as equal or fair as we can, imagining what it would be like if we were stuck with the other side of the deal than what we were expecting. Wow, wouldn't that be a novel idea? That would result in each party treating the other the way they want to be treated, which is the goal of this video. In summary, if we want the Lord to bless our business deals, then we need to create deals that He will bless. We need to learn how to treat others the way we want to be treated ourselves, not the way they have been treating us. When we do that, He will come and part with us and ensure that we succeed no matter what shenanigans the other party employs. If this video has been of some help to you, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. If there are any other topics you'd like to see discussed relating to the applications of the Second Commandment, please let me know. Until then, be blessed and keep doing business His way.